So tonight is October 30th, also known as Devil's Night. So I figured I'd make a video about what it's like to be a kid in the 1980s in the Bronx during Devil's Night. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about its history. So Samhain had become adopted by the Catholic religion to become Halloween. Like most pagan holidays, the Catholic Church would co-opt it to reach basically a wider audience and convert more people into the religion. So, with a large Celtic population coming from Ireland in the 1800s and early 1900s, the Halloween became, of course, as we all know it today, a huge American holiday. Well, in these urban epicenters, which were homes to a large immigrant population, its own holiday arose the night before Halloween, known as Devil's Night, or Mischief Night, or Mayhem Night. And as the name implies, it's basically a night where you go and cause mischief or let the devil loose. In fact, in Detroit, it was known for its arson. The cities were always on fire. I just watched a cool thing on, I think it was in the 60s, or early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, a documentary on what it was like in Detroit during that period. Now, I've never been to Detroit, so I really can't speak onto it. Whatever I can tell you about is the movie The Crow. It's kind of has the setting of Devil's Night, where they're torching everything, and it's the main protagonist and his wife are killed on their wedding night. He comes back from the grave to avenge them, and it's with Brandon Lee. He got killed during that movie, and he was great. It's so sad to see that Brandon Lee, this great actor, killed in such a way. But anyway, go watch the movie. It should be iconic, and it's fun. But what I'm going to talk about is what it was like for me as a kid in the Bronx in the 80s during Devil's Night. Now, the South Bronx was always on fire. It was like its own trope, right? Like the South Bronx is burning down. And in fact, there's a famous newscast of a fly ball leaving Yankee Stadium, and the whole town, all the buildings are on fire. It's like it's like apocalyptic. So I don't know if the fires increased at all, but I would imagine that they had, because a lot of people were running wild. As a younger kid, my running wild, my hooliganism was pretty minimal. It involved throwing eggs. Now, you couldn't get eggs the week leading up until Halloween. I think your parents had to get them, or they were sold out of the stores, and they didn't cost the fortune that they did now. So they were constantly getting tossed around and thrown at cars. And in fact, I have a memory of hanging out by the corner bodega with the teenage kids in the neighborhood and hucking eggs at all the passing cars. And times were a bit lawless back then. It was the 80s, it was New York, it was the Bronx, it was the middle of the crack epidemic. The city was in financial ruin. The NYPD had a lot more pressing things to do and a lot less manpower than to deal with kids throwing eggs and breaking stuff. So it was kind of like this lawless night for mischievous children who went around causing property damage and just graffiti, knocking over trash cans, and of course my favorite, knocking on apartment doors and running away. Now the older kids, there was a bit more criminality involved. I think that theft would occur, of course, but there was a lot of old scores settled. I remember kids would go and scrap it out. If you had beef with somebody, you would settle it on Devil's Night. Whether directly or indirectly. Usually indirectly, right? Because you're wearing a mask, and you can go and smash up break their window and kind of get away with it and have plausible deniability. No, I didn't break it. It was Devil's Night. Somebody else must have done that or whatever. But I tell you, scores were settled, or issues began to brew. But my older uncles and them, they were always fighting, and it was really an interesting time. Now, I look back at it with a form of nostalgia. I mean, yes, was it good for the community? No. Was it just absolute juvenile delinquency at its best? Yes. But once again, I said there was bigger problems. I mean, there was real crime going on. It was a bad crack problem. I mean, look it up. Take a minute after you're done watching this video and look up Bronx 1980s. You know, maybe add the word crack in there. Anyway, it seems to be a thing of the past. Back then, there was no cameras. People seemed a little bit more lawless and wild. But I'm an old man now. What do I know? My devil's night is watching The Crow and maybe playing trivia. But anyway, that's what it was like in the 80s. Lawless, exciting, fun, hooliganism, and a chance to just be kind of a wild youth, which may harken to, you know, the area and the times and the upbringing of it. But anyway, and we'll see what this Devil's Night brings. Have a safe and fun Halloween, and fire it up if you go and watch The Crow.